know what the real estate market is doing in Augusta, Georgia? Well, I do, and I have a guest expert on who does as well. So stick with us. Today, we're going to be talking about the real estate market in Augusta, Georgia, and you're not going to believe what we have to tell you. Welcome to our second ever live stream. This is the Georgia Coast Homes team. And a couple weeks ago, we went live talking about what the real estate market in Savannah is doing. But today we are talking about Augusta. And I'd like to introduce you to Kimberly Lahodny, our Georgia Coast Homes team rep in Augusta. Hey, Kimberly, how are you?
Hey, Karen, how are you doing tonight?
I am good. We thought we would do this in the evening rather than at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is when we normally post our videos. Just because we figured everybody's just getting to work on a Monday morning at 9. It may not be the ideal time for them to attend a live stream. We thought we'd give it a shot after dinner. People are home from work, settling in. So Kimberly and I have been talking a lot about what the market is doing in Augusta because she's had some just crazy stories to tell me lately. So I wanted to invite her on to tell everybody exactly what is happening with the market there, because a year ago it was super inexpensive. So Kimberly, is that still the case?
Well, compared to other markets in other major areas and big cities, yeah, we're still very affordable, but we are seeing prices go up even by $10,000 or $15,000. So it's important to know that what you think you're getting or what you're setting your search limits around may not be what's going to happen on the other side of the deal. And what that looks like is that when you ask Google or I don't know, Realtor.com or Zillow, what's the median house price in Augusta, Georgia, you get, $147,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And that's a great price.
Exactly. So for me as the consumer, if I'm looking online and I say, what, the median house price is only $150,000, that I'm thinking that is a normal 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice enough house, not huge, not tiny, not a dump, not a mansion, just like somewhere in the middle. But what does that really get you in Augusta?
So I think that there's a little bit of deception when it comes to the Augusta market because there are some other factors that come into what makes a house desirable in our area. So it is true that you'll get kind of a nice, clean, no real upgrades, no real frills house for $147,000. But if it's clean and nice, and if it's even close to being cute, you might get a bidding war. And then that's going to drive the price up closer to the 200,000 range. And you might think, gosh, that's so unfair, but it's happening all over the place. And it's absolutely happening here. And especially in the last 6 months. And, I think what drives the price down in Augusta is we have a lot of fixer uppers too. We have the, $90,000 fixer upper, super cute bungalow built in the 1940s, but man, that thing needs a ton of work. I mean, you're going to throw quite a bit of money into that house. You're going to have a charmer and your money's it's going to be an amazing investment for you for sure, but you have to be prepared. You're not going to get this cute little bungalow that's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath that is just in pristine condition for $90,000.
So it's funny that that's the number that you pulled up, because my first house that I bought in 1996 was right around $100,000. And that was 750 square feet. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It was built in 1949. And it was not a fixer upper, but it was a 50-year-old bungalow. So it looked it. And that was many years ago. So think about inflation and how prices appreciate over time. For the same amount of money, that's probably not what you're getting. You're saying that you're going to get something that needs quite a bit of modernization.
Yeah, like 6 months ago, you could have gotten a cute house in the $90,000 range. and somebody had done a nice clean job on it. Now, they may not have put all the frills in. It's not a Joanna Gaines fixer-upper, but somebody will have cleaned it up. Now that cleaned up house is going to be in the 100,000 range. And then the 3-bedroom, 2-bath is going to be, if it's had someone touch it in the last couple months, or even in the last year and done a decent job, you're heading towards 200,000. And a lot of people are saying, gosh, that's super not fair. And I mean, I don't know what to say about that, except that that's what's happening in the city of Augusta. What's happening in Columbia County is even more crazy. And we can talk about that in a minute.
Well, it's happening nationwide because you and I are in all these realtor Facebook groups and we're seeing everybody across the board. I was watching somebody's YouTube video a couple days ago who is in Phoenix, and he said, this last weekend was the most brutal weekend I've ever had since I started real estate, because we go look at houses and there are literally a line of people waiting to take their turn to come inside and look at it. And one person was telling me, they put in an offer, they got, I can't even remember how many offers were received, but they made a multiple counter offer back. Her offer was $40,000 over the asking price, and they still wanted more money. They wanted the earnest money to be non-refundable. They wanted a $20,000 buffer for if it didn't appraise for the sales price, that if it was less than a $20,000 split, that they would just pay the difference out of pocket. I mean, the sellers were basically raking these buyers over the coal, getting whatever they wanted, because if these buyers said, you know what, that's too demanding, I'm out, there were 30 other people who were right behind them that would probably, a lot of them would accept those terms. And it's happening everywhere, not just Augusta.
There were, and people are waiving all kinds of things, right? Yeah. Just to appease sellers. They're waiving appraisal, they're waiving their inspections. They're doing things that, in my opinion, aren't smart. You know, they're not the right thing to do if you're a buyer. But if you are getting a house way under budget, then you're assuming that loss. You're like, hey, this is way lower than I was ever going to pay in my market, so I'm willing to take that hit. If this house needs crazy repairs, we'll cover it. It's fine. And so local buyers are really having a hard time. We also have this really strange thing that's happening where sellers are hearing, like local sellers are saying, gosh, the market's so hot. It's a seller's market. I'm going to sell my house and move somewhere else or move in our area. And they're getting stuck in a rental. They're having as much of a hard time as the person that's coming in to buy because they're getting outbid.
Oh, okay. So have they already put their house on the market and they are under contract with a buyer for that house and now they can't find a place to go?
Yeah, that's happening. And that's happening at every price point. Like initially, some of our higher price point houses, because when I say that the Augusta market, the median home price is $147. That doesn't mean we don't have the 5s, 6s, 7s, $1 million homes. We absolutely do. And initially, those houses were sitting. So the people that were trying to get into the lower price range, those were getting snapped up so fast. But now our 6s, 7s, and 8s are getting snapped up just as fast. And that, I think, is shocking everyone. We also have incredibly low inventory. And always, you know, during the Christmas season, during the holiday season, pushing towards spring, there's always a lull in the market. Usually sellers don't want to move. Now we're hitting spring, but we're still not seeing that inventory pick up. And I think, this is my opinion, but I think people are like, wow, we have such value here, or they've landed here and they're not wanting to move. So,
and I wonder how many people are worried that they're not going to have a place to go because there is so much demand. And so, like, what is the answer to this dilemma? The only answer to this dilemma is for more people to put their homes on the market. And that way there's not such a feeding frenzy of 300 buyers for every available house. Like, the only way to remedy that is to get more people to sell, but everybody's afraid to sell. So it's a tough situation to be in. I know you had a really awesome article that you came across today that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I'd love to share this. This gentleman, this is a blog post, and you can go ahead and share it.
Okay. And everybody that, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat. We are here. We would certainly love to answer any questions that you have.
Totally. So this is a gentleman that, let me scroll and so you can see it.
Okay.
There we go. So this is a great article. It's called Augusta Real Estate Market, Still a Good Investment in 2021. And this was written by Jeff Rode. And what's interesting about this article is it really goes over all the different things that are happening here. And he's doing it for investors. He's going over why Augusta, Georgia is becoming such an intriguing place for people to relocate to. He talks about how we're, central eastern border state or city that, it sits on the Savannah River, and Augusta and then North Augusta kind of bridge the Georgia-South Carolina line. And of course, we're home to the Masters golf tournament at Augusta National. And then we also just have some really beautiful aspects of being here close to the Savannah River. We have the river walk, and we have all kinds of beautiful trails and places to go. Especially kayaking is a big deal. Whitewater rafting's a big deal here. And so he talks about how we've been growing. We've been getting thousands of residents in the past 5 years, but in the next 5 years, and this number is wrong. And the reason why I know it's wrong is that my husband holds a position in Columbia County, and he gets population numbers that are more accurate than this. But he says that we're going to grow by 13,000 new residents. The number is actually closer to 25 to 30,000 new residents in the next 5 years.
Oh my goodness, that's enormous.
It's enormous. And part of that has to do with the growth of Fort Gordon. We have a huge medical district here with over 11 hospitals. There's 5 major hospitals, but there's 11 total. We're just attracting so many people, not to mention young professionals. And these numbers include, so that's not just Augusta, the city, central city, but that's also specifically Columbia County. And that's the main 3 cities that are experiencing the most growth in Columbia County are Evans, are Martinez, and Grovetown. But Appling is not too far behind, because I think I've mentioned before in a video, we're getting an Amazon distribution center. I mean, a massive, massive structure. And they're already talking about a lot of new construction and a lot of apartment and condo complexes in order to accommodate all of this growth. And this is what's driving so much to our area. So it's not just COVID. It's not just the fact that everybody seems to be on this huge search for the affordable home right now. It's also that there's just a lot of action going on in our county. There's a lot of really great economic growth. And when economic growth happens, it creates a housing frenzy. So one of the things this guy talks about in this article that is really shocking to me is, well, I shouldn't say it's shocking. He's reiterating what we're saying. He's saying, look, if you find a $98,000 home right now, I don't care what condition it's in, buy it. And he says, it's not going to last, these lower prices. We're going to see a growth. And I know that a couple days ago, Karin, you released a video that you said that there's going to be a point where these house prices hit a ceiling. But when you're starting at $98,000, you can only go up from there. It's not like you're starting at 700,000. So
right. We're not talking about San Diego, where my friend Kim just sold a 450-foot outbuilding for like $700,000 or something.
Right. And I think that's, I mean, see, and that's exactly right. So my family, a lot of my family are in real estate and in development up in the DC area, and they're buying a $700,000 home to flip, and they're selling it in the millions, which is exciting for them. But at a certain point, that's not sustainable either. And I think New York is a really good example of this. You had the prices go up so high, and then something like a pandemic hits and everybody exits the city. And now I've got friends going back into the city, finally getting apartments and real estate that they'd always wanted. Now it's still very high, but it's not nearly as high as it was. So there's always going to be like the top of the bubble, or however you want to put it.
You know, we have a question. So
Okay.
Is it Kieran or Kirian says, what is your opinion on the Holly Street and Brown Street neighborhood?
Okay. Wow, that's very specific. So Holly Street and Brown Street are closer to, are you asking, I guess my question is, are you looking to invest? And is this because Augusta National just infused that area with a lot of money? That's my question back to you.
So what did they do? They came in with a whole bunch of money to like beautify the area that had been neglected?
So they're announcing an infusement of, well, there are two numbers out there. They announced publicly $25 million into Harrisburg, which is the immediate neighborhood, and some of the other areas that are National Hills, which is right across the street. And I'm trying to think of the other the other large neighborhood that borders, but Harrisburg and National Hills kind of sandwich Augusta National, and they're improving everything. So what I would say is that if you're looking at Holly Street or Brown Street, or if you're looking at Telfair, or if you're looking at anywhere even in the Laney Walker area, as scary as some of those investments could be, everything, there is a plan for everything in the Augusta area to revitalize. They're being very delicate about it. They're being very gentle because they don't want to gentrify. And there's a lot of history here. If you have specific questions, I haven't done a lot of analysis on Holly Street or Brown Street for anyone yet, but I can look at what's going on there and if there's any comps that would make a flip reasonable in that area. But I would say that if you're looking at something in particular, no, that's a question about Savannah. I thought maybe he was responding. If you're looking at something specific, like a house on Holly Street or Brown Street, I'd love to do a comprehensive market analysis for you and see if it's reasonable, because you can overflip. I was telling an investor the other day that if you're looking at some of the more opportunity zones in our area, you almost, unless the house is falling down and it's of historical value to you to completely restore it, I would do a two-step flip. I would literally go into some of these houses and just really clean them up, make them sound and secure and clean and neat and attractive. And then once the neighborhood really starts bubbling up with the house prices, go in and do more the aesthetic niceties that you want to put into the house to make it really sell for top dollar. So
that's really good advice, because we've all seen houses that were completely over improved, and then when they go to sell, it's like you're not going to recoup the amount of money that you've put into this house because you did too much.
Right. So and it's so tempting in Augusta specifically, and probably in Savannah too, where you have these historic areas and the houses are gorgeous, but they're falling apart because no one's taking care of them. So if you want to go in and you want to just clean it up and make sure that it's going to stay for the next 40, 50, 100 years, that's going to be a good chunk of change. Then come in and do something, and that's one way to do it on some of the streets that are a little bit more rough.
Got it. So Brian said, I'm considering relocating to Savannah, which is where I am. And what would your advice be on buying new or existing? Well, so there's a lot of new construction going in here as well, but we are seeing pretty much the same thing that's happening in Augusta with multiple offers and having to go out and put in really competitive offers. I've done both personally, and I don't know that I really have a preference. I mean, there's something to be said for buying a brand new house where you get to pick all of your colors and pick all of your finishes. You move in, it's clean, there's nothing you have to fix, it's got a warranty, and it's just great. And that's what my last house was. And we lived there for almost 4 years, and I loved it. But at the same time, there's something to be said for an older house that has more land and it's surrounded by trees. And we moved to a house that's on 5 acres that has a big pond in the back. And my daughter went down there to go fishing. And the first fish she caught was a big mouth bass. We've got a chicken coop out back. We don't have any chickens yet, but come this weekend, we're getting chickens. And so it just kind of depends on what you want. If you want something that's we're not going to take up all of your weekends having to fix up stuff. You've got a honey-do list. 3 houses ago, my husband and I bought a house that was built in the 90s, and every single light fixture in that house was brass. Every room was purple or mint green. I mean, every weekend we were painting, we were replacing light fixtures, we were replacing faucets, we were giving one room or another a facelift. And after a year and a half, it was exhausting. All we had done was fix up this house. So we fixed it all up. We sold it. We made a nice big fat profit. We went and bought new construction so we could take our weekends off and like chill. So it really just depends on what you like doing. If you get an older home that's existing, you will probably end up getting a slightly larger yard. You might not be in a homeowners association. You'll have a little bit more flexibility. Like, can you park a boat or a camper in your backyard? If you get new construction, most likely you're going to be in a homeowners association. You're going to have to play by their rules. They're going to tell you what you can and cannot do, what you're allowed to have parked in your driveway, what color you're allowed to paint your house. You're going to pay dues for living in that neighborhood. So it really is just personal preference. But, once you decide what kind of a lifestyle you envision for yourself, then you can say, okay, now that I know what I want, now I know where to look for that kind of a house. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. So Kathy says, how do the prices compare between Augusta and Savannah? So in Savannah, for our whole metro area, when I look at what the median home price is, it's roughly $315,000, $310,000, $315,000 in there. So you're saying your median home price is quite a bit less, but what is the whole population of your area?
Well, my question to you is, when you're looking at median, are you looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or are you looking at a 4? Does it matter?
See, I don't look at it at all. I look at I don't typically include condos. I typically look at houses, and I say, show me all of the houses that have sold in Chatham County, Bryan County, and Effingham County. And what was the median home price, meaning the one that was smack dab in the middle. So 50% of them were below and 50% of them were above. What is that number right in the middle? And when I did this last week, it was like 312, somewhere in there.
So ours, I would look at Aiken County and Columbia County and Richmond County. So that's a South Carolina county. That's Richmond, which has Augusta within it. And then Columbia County is just outside, and that's Evans, Martinez, Grove.
Old habits are hard to break, aren't they?
We can talk about that later. So I look at 3 as well. And if you look at all of them, I would say that our median home price is probably between $250,000 to $290,000.
Okay, so really it's a little bit less than the Savannah area.
Mm-hmm.
Our population for that tri-county area is probably around 350,000, and maybe more than that now. We've had people flocking here. It's crazy. We've had such an influx of people in the last 12 months that it would not surprise me if that number is closer to 400,000.
Yeah. And we're seeing that with anything that's really nice. I mean, it's so hard to say like our median home price is 250 to 290. That's true. But if it's in a neighborhood that's desirable, that price was true 3 or 4 months ago. But now there's a bidding war, and there are people that are going as high as, I mean, it's getting close to 4 in some cases. And we do have neighborhoods that it doesn't matter if the square footage is identical outside of that community. We have at least 5 communities, at least in Columbia County, at least, that just going inside that community, it's $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 more for the houses.
Wow. So speaking of Columbia County, Spiritual Order Ministries says, are there any rent to buy or lease with an option to purchase type programs in Evans that you're aware of?
No.
Yeah, we don't have them here either. And you know why that is? I wish I knew your name. I would call you by name. It's because you see more of those when the market is in favor of the buyer. When the seller puts their house on the market and they can't give it away because there's so few buyers and the sellers are all trying to compete for their intention. They're like, hey, how about if we do a lease with an option to purchase? Yeah. You can move in and rent it, and I'll take a portion of your rent and put it in this account over here. And at the end of the lease, we'll take all that money and give it back to you to use as your down payment. And now you can buy it from me and you don't have to move again because you already live in the house. But in a market like this, there's no advantage for the seller to do that because they need the money from the sale in order to buy their next house. So if you move in and rent it, they don't have their down payment most of the time to buy the next house. So there are very, very few of those, unfortunately.
I would say the same thing. Absolutely. I'd say the interesting thing about Evans and about Columbia County and Richmond is there are people sitting on multiple properties. There are people who live here that own a couple of different properties. Some of them use them as master's rentals. Some of them just sit on them. And occasionally you'll find somebody whose tax advantage is running out. And if you're good friends with them, or if you can connect with them in a deeper way, they may let you do a rent to buy. It's not unheard of. It's just, do you know that person and has that, I mean, that's like, are you in the family kind of deal?
Right. They're just so hard to find. Like they don't list them. You might find one on Craigslist, but I guarantee you he probably has leased it within 10 minutes of posting it. And they don't really list them that way on the multiple listing service. So they're unfortunately very hard to find. However, during the crash back in like 2007, 8, 9, we saw a ton of them because the sellers were the ones that did not have the power of they were not in a position of power. So the sellers were willing to do anything they could to try to make it work with the buyer. But unfortunately now it's like a total seller's market. So just no reason. Thank you, Sharon, for your awesome question and for telling us your name. We were happy to answer it for you.
Yeah.
Did you want to share some more screens and stats with us, Kimberly?
So I would tell you, before I share anything more, I want to share that we've seen just the price of housing rise. Like we're talking about that, but I did a comparative analysis on 6 months ago what the houses were doing, and then what the houses are doing now.
Perfect.
And the scenario I chose was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, because that's what I get called on mostly. When you get bigger in square footage, and this is like a 1,500 square foot house, maybe 2,000. So that's around the range square footage. So in the Augusta market, so this is the city of Augusta, Richmond County.
Are you able to share your screen? Or do you just want to talk?
Well, I wrote these out.
So okay, got it. Sorry.
So part of this is, and let me explain why I don't want to share my screen. Navica is our MLS listing site, and our reports when we run them are just the most unattractive thing. So I don't know if it would even matter. I mean, I can share my little notepad where I wrote all this stuff down.
Nah, that's all right.
It's just boring. So just to get these numbers in your head, we did talk about the 147,000. So that's where the market is right now. 6 months ago, that was September to October. I looked at what the median house price was, median house price for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and that was $3,600,000, right? I'm sorry, $136,000.
Okay, got it.
My brain isn't working very well.
I know, it's late.
The days on market was 71 days. So from the moment a seller put the house on the market to the point that it actually closed, and that's accounting for about 30-day closing, right? From the time it went under contract, 71 days. Now, what was interesting is that the list price, I looked at the list price compared to what they got for the house. It was almost 100%.
Even 6 months ago. Interesting.
So what does that tell you? It tells you that 6 months ago it was a seller's market, right? So they would list it at 133,000 and they got 133,000, or they got 136,000. It was almost 100%. The same was true. So then let's fast forward to right now. You've got a list price. Well, so now the median house price is $146,000/$147,000, right? So that's the number I keep talking about.
Okay.
The days on market are 72, so not much change, but we have an increased price of about $11,000. So in 6 months' time, houses are $11,000 more.
That's huge on such a small. I mean, if
Right.
it were a $300,000 house, it's not quite as big of a percentage, but on a house that was originally 136 and now it's 146, that's a pretty big increase in only 6 months.
Right. So then let's jump over to Columbia County, because I did the same thing there. And back 6 months ago, the median house price for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath was $220,000. Okay. And the average days on market was 56 days. And the list price was $241,000. They got 130, around 137,000 on average. So
237.
Sorry, 237. What do I keep saying? One?
I don't know.
Numbers are not I shouldn't say numbers aren't my thing. On paper, numbers are my thing. Talking numbers is hard. So now let's fast forward to this month. We've got a median house price of this last month at $268,000. So we went from 220 to
Wow.
268
In 6 months.
That's a $40,000 increase. And that's
the sales price to list price. What does that look like?
Sales price to list price now is 264 to 264, 100%.
Wow. Amazing.
They're getting exactly what they want. And, is that good news or bad news for our buyers and people who are listening right now and they're considering? Not if these prices are not freaking you out. I mean, if a house for 260 is in your budget, or if it's way below your budget, let's say you were thinking, I want a house for $350,000, and your ideal house is actually in the 260 range, then go in with a strong offer.
And we're still the lowest interest rates that I've ever seen in my entire adult life. No, my lifetime, period. End of story. I remember when my parents bought a house when I was in 8th grade, and it was like a 14% interest rate. When we sold our house in October and bought this house that we're living in now, we got a 2.75% interest rate. And then the rates went down even further after we closed on this house. So if the house is within your budget, these interest rates are not going to last. There's no way they can. They've been going down and down and down and down for the last 5, 6, whatever years.
Yeah.
They can't go down to zero. They're not going to be 0% loans. The bank has to make money somehow. Otherwise, they're all going to go out of business. I really don't see them going down to 1%. I think they're going to start to go back up again. So if you can get in now, even though you're like, dang it, it's 60,000 more than the house was a year ago. Yes. But think of that interest rate and figure out there's multiple websites that have online mortgage calculators where you say the house costs $260,000. My interest rate is 2.75. I'm doing a 30-year fixed, and I estimate that my property taxes will be this much, and I estimate that my homeowner's insurance will be this much. And it will tell you what your mortgage payment is going to be based on how much money you put as your down payment. Let's assume that you're a first-time buyer, you're doing a 3.5% down FHA loan, or you're military doing 0% down because you're getting a VA loan. What would your monthly mortgage payment be? And if that mortgage payment is pretty comparable to what you would pay in rent, I say do it all day long.
I do too. And I think I do want to talk about this. So I get a lot of people that they're ready to do this. They're ready to make a purchase right now. But when they look at our market, they're not seeing the cute homes that they were hoping to see. And I want to talk about that for a second, because we talked about inventory being low, and we talked about how sometimes the house, even if it's in your price point, if it has any charm, it might shoot up out of your price point. Part of this has to do with inventory. So I had somebody call me and they said, look, I have a $250,000 budget. I'm like, hey, that's pretty decent here. They wanted a smaller home. I was like, you're going to get something really cute. I mean, I was pretty sure. And they wanted a little land. And I was like, they didn't want more than 11,000 square feet. And they wanted like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. What ended up happening is we put those numbers in and we did a search. And because there are houses that exist like that, all that was pulling up was new construction. And there was just so much new construction. And it was and in new construction, he could afford more house. And he was like, I don't want this house. I don't even want this much space. I want a cute house with tons of charm. Well, we shot up to just a little bit above his budget, and we found like the ideal house for him. It was beautifully done inside, but it happened to be on the hill. So the hill in Augusta is the oldest part of Augusta, and it's very expensive. And it's it's like within 2 miles of Augusta National. And because it's in 2 miles of Augusta National, this house happens to be a master's rental. So when there is an opportunity to make money off of your primary residence, and I know we haven't talked a lot about this on this live stream tonight, that is a huge factor why a cute little house that should be in the $250,000 range is in the 5 range, because you can make crazy amounts of money renting your house out for 1 week a year. And it was very frustrating to him. He's like, I don't want to look right now. And I said, I get it. I also know that in a couple of months, when people start feeling safe enough to list their house again, more of the houses that he likes are going to come onto the market. But I am nervous because of what we talked about earlier, is that sellers are just as scared, because if they want to stay in the area, they don't know if they're going to find something. So it is a bit of a challenge.
It is.
It's a bit.
But what you were talking about before is, if the house price is right and it's not charming and beautiful, like, you can make it charming and beautiful. Yes, you'll have to put some elbow grease into it. Yes, you'll have to spend some money to fix it up. But as long as the amount of money that you spend to fix it up does not over improve its value. So let's say you buy a house for $200,000, or let's say you buy a house for $100,000, and you put $30,000 worth of work into it because you have to remodel the kitchen, remodel both bathrooms, and put a new roof on. If you put that much money into it, is the house now worth 130,000 because I bought it for 100 and I put 30,000 of work into it. Is it now worth 130? As long as the answer is yes, or it's worth more than that, then it's worth doing. And there are many loans out there that are rehab loans that are for exactly this purpose. They basically let you finance the construction costs as part of your loan, because you say, well, I'd love to do that, but I don't have 30 grand just sitting around in the bank and I'm going to be writing checks to the contractors all day. They allow you to borrow that money to do, you buy the house for essentially 130,000 because you know that you're going to buy it for 100 and put the $30,000 worth of work into it. When it's all done, you have one mortgage payment that incorporates that whole bundle. So if you're only finding fixer-uppers and you're getting discouraged, there are programs like that that are really, really great options for somebody that just like really that's their last resort. And if prices continue to go up and then eventually the interest rates go up too, then people are going to get priced out of the market. So this is a good way for them to get in with something that may be less than ideal, but you know what? You can always make it ideal, just with a little bit of sweat and elbow grease, right?
Well, I was going to say, we are a prime market right now, even in higher ranges. I feel like everybody is coming here for their forever home. And it's like we're the prime market for a reno loan. Because, I mean, like, and I'll give you an example. I'm dying to get my mom and dad to buy a house down here. And I asked my mom, I said, hey, Mom, what do you need? And she goes, well, I want a 1-story and I want at least 1 acre or 2 acres so that if I bring the dogs down, they can run around. And if I decide to live there forever, I want it to be beautiful inside. And I said, well, what if I find you an incredible house that is really well built on 2 acres, but it's going to need some work inside? And she's like, well, what's the price point? I said, I can actually get you a pretty great price point, but you're probably going to need to put, like you said, maybe 20, 30, 40 into the house. And I found her 4 houses that were, I even could figure out who the builders were, and they're still around, and they're great builders. So these are great, like the bones are great. And the house is 90s. It is inside, especially one of them. And she looked at it and she goes, oh, I don't know. I said, well, I'm going to send it to you. The next day I sent it to her so she could really look at, or I tried to go send it to her so she could look at it. And it took me a minute to find it. It was already pending. Or somebody already grabbed it up because that house was awesome. I mean, I picked 4 houses. All houses were really decent. That one was outstanding, but it needed work inside. And that's what's happening to all the buyers that I'm talking to, because they'll wait. And I'm like, I know you're not physically here with me right now, but this has value. I know where it is. I know who built it. And I'm telling you, if you don't buy it, somebody's going to buy it. And well, it hasn't closed yet, so I don't know if they bought it for over, but I know that they had quite a few. There were at least 5 people presenting offers.
Yep, because you can't change the location. You can't change the footprint of the house unless you knock it down and start over. But you can strip flowered wallpaper, and you can replace ugly tile. The tile floor in our kitchen of the house that we bought was pink and orange terracotta from the 80s. Oh, it was awful. We had great fun taking a sledgehammer to that floor. And so if you can have a little bit of vision, and I'm not very good at that, I have to say. My husband is so much better at that than I am. But having vision of what it could look like with cosmetic updates, not major overhauls. We're not talking about mold remediation and stuff like that. We're talking about stainless appliances instead of avocado green, and painting the cabinets white, and doing facelift type stuff. If people could just be a little less like, don't look at the paint color, and just imagine the size of the room. Do you like the location? Do you like this neighborhood where it's located? Yeah.
Well, and that makes me think that,
Kathy asked a question again and said, are people buying houses sight unseen? So we've been affected by travel restrictions because of COVID, and I haven't been able to travel. Yes, absolutely, Kathy. That happens to us all the time. For me in particular, we get so many military people that are moving here from out of town. We've helped people from South Korea, from Germany, from New York, from every state in the country practically. And unfortunately, the Army does not give them a house hunting trip where they can come to town and look for houses. So we do a ton of virtual showings where we go to the house, we either FaceTime them, we take a big video, we upload the video and send it to them so they can watch it over and over and over again. I always try to get people, if that's their situation, can you come see the house once you're under contract? So you write your offer is accepted. We ask for 14 days to inspect it. Can you come here and see it in 14 days? If you can, awesome. That way you've laid eyes on it and you know. But for other people, they can't. It is just not a possibility. And they just have to take a leap of faith. And I will take as many videos of that house as they need to feel comfortable, and so that they feel like they're sure of what they're actually getting. And they can always have all the inspections done, right? So you pay for a home inspection, you pay for a termite inspection, you might pay for a roof inspection, get the opinion of all of these professionals so that you really feel good about what you're getting. And heaven forbid, if you hate it, you just hang on to it for 6 months and turn around and sell it. And hopefully it'll appreciate another $60,000.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome live stream. We got out a ton of information and we had some really great questions. Any last things you want to wrap up with, Kimberly?
I'd say, in talking about this, I felt like, well, we didn't present a lot of optimism. And the reality is that there are turnkey houses available. You just have to have your finances prepared, and you have to have a realistic view of what's happening in the market. And that's why connecting with a great local realtor is so essential.
And a great local lender. Let's say that too, because if you live in New Jersey and you're working with your local lender in New Jersey, who may be licensed in Georgia, but does not know the area, they don't understand how the property taxes here work, you're doing yourself a disservice. You really need to have people that are boots on the ground in the city where you're moving to, that are advocating for you, especially if you are doing this all sight unseen, because you just can't come to town. People in Canada, I don't think that they're allowed to cross over into the United States right now. So if you live in Vancouver and you want to buy a house here, you're not going to be able to come and see it. Kathy, I can't remember where you live. I know that we've spoken before. I just don't remember off the top of my head where you live. Yeah. So yes, if you have a good agent helping you and a good local lender, and you know exactly how much you're going to need for your closing costs and your down payment, your debt to income ratio is looking good, you've got good FICO scores. If you are in the best possible position financially before you take on this project, you're going to be fine. You may have to put in many offers on different houses before you finally get the one, but I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason. And if you did not get that house, there was probably a reason why. It's because there's a better one out there for you. Maybe there was something wrong with that house and you're going to find out about it 6 months later. But if you just keep at it, you're going to find the house that's right for you.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. I would also say, if you're skeptical when you talk to someone like us and we recommend a lender, don't be. We're referring people that we know, that we trust, and we know are going to get you to closing successfusly. There's no backhand deal or anything going on there. I mean, I hear from people all the time, like, well, I'm really comfortable using my own lender. And I'm like, I totally get that. But if you have a team of people that know each other and know the area really well, you're going to have more success. So I completely agree with Karin. I couldn't reiterate that more.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it is absolutely illegal for us to get a kickback from somebody for, if I refer my client to lender XYZ and they're like, hey, here's $1,000 on the side, like that is going to jail offenses. We don't do that. We don't receive any sort of compensation at all. But I know I have this person's cell phone number. and I know where their office is. And if they're not responding to my calls, I can march myself down to their office and sit on the corner of their desk and say, I ain't leaving until you get this file taken care of. And trust me, they do not want to see me coming into their office with steam coming out of my ears. And so having a relationship with a local lender like that, it just makes it easier for us to follow up. But when I do deals where they're approved by Veterans United and it's from the corporate office, I think it's in Minneapolis or something, and you're calling a 1-800 number and you never get the person on the phone, and you can't text them because it's not a cell number, it's a landline. You don't speak to the same person 2 times in a row. It's so frustrating, and there's literally nothing that we can do about that because they are many, many states away. So trust me, when we say you really should work with somebody local in this market, I'll give you multiple names. You pick whoever you like, but I can vouch for all 3 of those people. That's going to end up being a smoother transaction 90 times out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah, you're in California. That's right. Now that you say that, I remember. I know. Gotta love COVID. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful. I remember when you joined the team, Kimberly, and you were first making videos, you were talking about what a great value it was in Augusta, and we've seen the prices going up. So we just kind of wanted to set more realistic expectations for people so that they understood it is still a great price. Compared to California, I don't think you can find a house in California for $265,000 unless it's, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But it's still a good price, and we don't have nearly as many restrictions, and restaurants are open, and we can, I mean, I can't say that life is normal, but we're getting there. It's a little bit more normal than other places, and property taxes are less. Gas in your car is less. The cost of living for stuff is less. Sales tax is less. The whole package is so significantly less than many, many other places that even if the prices here are rising as they are across the entire country, they're still what I would consider to be affordable.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And we will be back next Monday with a new video for you. And I have a little secret I'm dropping. We are now expanding into the Hilton Head, South Carolina area. So you're going to start seeing some videos all about Hilton Head and what it's like over there soon, too. So take care. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next Monday.